Since I've been bringing science into this as much as I can, and I've also been bringing quantum physics, the light spectrum, things like that into this. So what I want to do here, I've been reading some stuff out of some of these books I've been reading here and there and talking about some of that. So I got Sasquatch, Science Meets Legend by Dr. Jeff Meldrum. So I was lucky enough to meet him in Ocala at one of the Bigfoot conferences in Ocala. So I got to meet him. I got to listen to his speech and what he was talking about. So I totally didn't agree with anything he was up there saying, and he almost put everybody to sleep. But Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, he's actually done a lot for the Bigfoot community, and I'm going to bring some of this into this too as well, and read some of this to you, because he was a scientist. All right, so let me get to the first part here. All right, so this first part's not real long. All right, so all right, so I'm gonna start up here. The various tribes across North America have attached their own names to the entity. These names number more than 60, but most generally make reference to a wild man of the woods. So I think there's a lot more than that now, if I remember right. Learning about that, the different names that the Native Americans had for Sasquatch, Bigfoot. So I think there's a lot more than 60 now, or known now. In the 1920s, Canadian journalist J.W. Burns coined the term Sasquatch as a common denominator for the myriad of native names. Sasquatch derives directly from the word Sasquatch, the original word in the Stolo dialect of the Alcomalim language. So I hope I'm saying these right. It's used by the Coast Salish Indians of the Fraser Valley and parts of Vancouver Island, British Columbia. So I hope I'm saying those names right. And I know a lot of y'all have already heard this, that the Sasquatch came from the name Sasquatch. Alright, so other names describe particular behaviors associated with the animal, such as eating clams or shaking trees, thus reinforcing the impression that the natives are describing an animal they have actually encountered and of whose habits they have first-hand knowledge. And a lot of these actually didn't consider them animals. A lot of them considered them people and other tribes, things like that. So early encounters between Sasquatch and Europeans in America date to the 1800s. An example is found in a letter to the Antioch Ledger, which is the California Ledger, in 1870. So this was in 1870. A hunter recounted that upon returning to his camp, he repeatedly found the ashes and charred sticks from the campfire scattered about. The ground in camp was hard and no tracks were evident, but a search of the vicinity revealed a set of large barefoot tracks nearby. In order to discover the identity of the visitor, he remained nearby the next day. So from a hidden vantage he sat overlooking the camp. In his own words, he said, "Suddenly I was surprised by a shrill whistle, such as boys produce with two fingers under their tongues, and turning quickly, I ejaculated, 'Good God,' as I saw the object of my solicitude standing beside my fire." Alright, so he was, this was a hunter, and he was apparently out there by himself hunting and camping. I know. All right, so that shrill whistle that he talks about too, I've caught that. I've caught that on audio recorder and camcorder footage. I've caught that a few times out there in the woods. That shrill whistle. And when you enhance it and make it louder, you can tell it sounds almost like a metallic type whistle. All right, so he said, "Good God." So when he saw it standing beside this fire, standing erect, looking suspiciously around, it was the image of a man, but it could not have been human. I was never so benumbed with astonishment before. The creature, whatever it was, stood fully 5 feet high and disproportionately broad and square at the foreshoulders, with arms of great length. The legs were very short and the body long. The head was small compared with the rest of the creature, and it appeared to be set upon the shoulders without a neck. The whole was covered with dark brown and cinnamon-colored hair, quite long on some parts. That on the head standing in a shock and growing down close to the eyes. As I looked, he threw back his head and whistled again. So we're at a park not very far from our house. This is, turned out to be a very nice spot right here. That was Lynette and Robin and Andy that walked by. So they come out here with me, and they can walk for 10-15 minutes while I'm doing the video. Alright, so back to this. So such reports were familiar to those frequenting the mountainous forest regions, but were not common knowledge elsewhere. So the people that lived out in the forests and the mountainous areas and all, this was common knowledge to them, as well as to the Native Americans. In the late 1950s, however, public attention in the United States was galvanized when an unusual story captured the journalistic attention of the newspaper wire services. New roads were encroaching upon the remote forests of Northern California. Apparently, bulldozers represented an object of curiosity to one particular resident creature, as abandoned campfires had been in the previous century. So occasionally, nighttime forays to investigate the previous day's earth-moving activities were attested to by lines of tracks along the roadside and encircling the idle equipment. Construction workers, see if you can figure out where I'm going with this one. So construction workers dubbed the nocturnal visitor Bigfoot for the oversized human-like footprints it left in the freshly turned earth. Alright, so when a bulldozer operator named Jerry Crew, the one that was finding the footprints around his bulldozer equipment and coined the Bigfoot term. So a man with a reputation for honesty and level-headedness showed up in town with a plaster cast of one of the 16-inch footprints. Bigfoot made headlines at home and across the country. Generally, scientists took little notice and made no serious efforts to investigate the reports. An exception was Ivan Sanderson. Alright, so Ivan Sanderson, he was a noted zoologist and animal collector from New York. So he examined the cast and discussed the California Bigfoot in his encyclopedic treatment of wild men around the globe. So here's another statement of wild men. So around the globe, so abominable snowmen, legend come to life. So that was the Ivan Sanderson's. So that was his encyclopedic treatment. Abominable snowmen, legend come to life. So at first he was incredulous. It is very well to have abominable creatures pounding over snow-covered passes in Nepal and Tibet, but a wild man with a 16-inch foot and a 50-inch stride tromping around California is a little too much to ask. to ask even Californians to accept. However, based on the evidence, he concluded that an unrecognized animal was responsible for the footprints, although that judgment by him was not taken seriously in most quarters. So a lot of the other scientists and people that did not actually live out in the woods and the mountain areas and stuff, wasn't taking none of this seriously. Alright, so I have a little bit more to go here on this. Alright, so he was talking about about Jerry Crew, and he coined the name Bigfoot, and then Ivan Sanderson, the zoologist. So I got a few mosquitoes flying around. Even the seminal work of noted primatologist, so this is a primatologist, John Napier, another rare scientist who was willing to consider the evidence with an open mind, had little lasting impact on the academic community. So this is John Napier, a primatologist. So he was willing to look at this with an open mind too. So after a review of a sample of the evidence, Napier drew a conclusion and revealed that what contributes to the continued resistance to this proposition. He said one is forced to conclude that a man-like life form of gigantic proportions is living at the present time in the wild areas of the northwestern United States and British Columbia. So he said, if I have given the impression that this conclusion is, to me, profoundly disturbing, then I have made my point. That such a creature should be alive and kicking in our midst, unrecognized and unclassifiable, is a profound blow to the credibility of modern anthropology. So, not only the anthropology, that they couldn't find any evidence, they weren't finding the bones and stuff, no evidence for Bigfoot, Sasquatch. All the hunters and everybody now we have nowadays, and everybody now has the hunters. A lot of hunters use game cameras. Game cameras are a lot more popular now and a lot more affordable. And you also have everybody's walking around with the phone with a camera on it. So everybody's walking around with cameras. Alright, so these are the expressions of a few intrepid scientists who were willing to consider the possibilities in light of the data, while still wrestling with the implications of their interpretations and conclusions. So are these reports more than just stories? Can the persistent and remarkably consistent accounts of eyewitnesses from all walks of life, experienced hunters, police officers, foresters, park rangers, wildlife biologists, field geologists, to name but a few, simply be dismissed out of hand as the product of mass hysteria or delusion? Do mere stories lay down tracks, shed hair, void scat, or leave sign of foraging? It is one thing to casually dismiss a report from the security and comfort of one's armchair. Alright, so like right here he's talking about armchair quarterbacks. So with that being said though too, I have to admit too that, you know, we're all watching videos and on YouTube, we're all watching the Bigfoot documentaries. So there's a lot out there to watch and look at, and you have to make up your own mind what you think could be real, and hopefully you're having an open mind about these things. But also there's also trolls, and I don't think he's talking about trolls right here in this part. But there's a lot of trolls too out there that want to just bully people and leave rude comments too, and don't really know anything about the subject matter and never go out in the woods. Alright, so it is quite another thing to look into the face of an experienced outdoorsman and tell him he is mistaken or worse yet, a liar. So see, like myself, I've been hunting all my life here in Florida. I've learned all my life the animal tracks, what animals are out there, what they're eating, all kinds of stuff out there like that. And now that I'm really getting out there and looking, and I've been working on sharpening my tracking skills even more, and I'm really looking for these things now, the evidence is out there. It's easy to find. Alright, so it is yet another matter of a betrayal of scientific principles to decline to examine and consider the evidence, because after all, such creatures as the Sasquatch cannot exist, therefore they do not exist. So why be bothered with questionable evidence? And yet such is the atmosphere that has prevailed in scientific circles. So talking about the science, the scientists won't even look at this stuff, won't even look at the evidence, because they say it cannot exist, it can't be, it doesn't exist. So why even look at any evidence? So however, my sense is that of late, conditions and a few attitudes have noticeably shifted. Open expressions of support and encouragement from some prominent researchers, not least among them the likes of George Schaller, cannot be idly dismissed by serious and informed scientists, let alone armchair skeptics. So there he talks about the skeptics again, just sitting at their homes and not getting out in the woods. So I suggest to everybody that they get out in the woods. Go to a park, get out in nature, listen to the birds, see what the birds are doing. Listen to them, listen to how they sound. And once you get to know the birds and how they sound, when they sound distressed and sounding off alarms, you'll know it, you'll understand. Things like that. If you can get out in the woods and walk a little bit, watch for animal tracks, notice some of the shrubbery and stuff, you can see what the deer are eating, you can see the animal tracks, see what animals are in your area. Alright, it seems that several factors may have contributed to this shift. First, a great deal has been learned about the fossil record of human evolution. There's a new outlook on the adaptive role of bipedalism, or the habit of walking on 2 feet, that no longer simply equates bipedalism with humanness. Second, the pioneering efforts over the past several decades of dedicated naturalists and field primatologists such as George Schaller, Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, Baruch Gladicus, and many more that have carried on their legacy, have yielded a clearer understanding of the natural behavior and diversity of the known great apes. Third, a new generation of anthropologists and zoologists has grown up with a contemporary notion of Sasquatch, even explicit discussion of it in some widely used anthropology texts, rather than having had it dropped abruptly into their unsuspecting laps. So shifts in paradigms, regardless of the evidence at hand, frequently require the rolling over of a generation in order to take root in acceptance. Whether it exists in reality or not, the Sasquatch has certainly become a part of the North American landscape, both culturally and scientifically. Bigfoot and Sasquatch are the symbols of monster trucks, hockey teams. They sell everything from pizza to athletic shoes. That's like here in Polk County, in my area, there's a Bigfoot trailers, just a trailer selling trailers, the big white enclosed trailers and the open trailers for hauling things. There's a Bigfoot sheds, just a shed company that come out and build a shed for you. There's all kinds of stuff like that. People just trying to use the Bigfoot name to help their business there. Witnesses are less afraid of ridicule should they decide to share their encounters with others. The question of its existence and place among primates has been discussed at professional conferences and exhibited in the halls of prominent museums. A growing number of scientists no longer perceive the Sasquatch as such an extraordinary possibility. For some, it boils down to a question of the probability or likelihood that such an animal could exist, unconfirmed at this time in this place. So here in this book, the plausibility and probability of a North American ape has been put to the test of science as never before. Diverse evidence has been and continues to be scrutinized by experts from varied scientific disciplines. So the Bigfoot Sasquatch stuff here has been studied by paleontologists, primatologists, anthropologists, forensic examiners, image analysis, biomechanics, naturalists, trackers, animators, kinesiologists, statisticians, molecular biologists. So these experts have applied their skills to objectively evaluate the available data and have drawn their own conclusions about the evidence. So what has been revealed, and are the conclusions sufficient to give pause to the skeptics or to the believers? So find out as the legend of Sasquatch meets science. So it's talking about Morask. He goes into this book. So I know there's a couple of videos too on YouTube from Doug Hychek. So I'll be watching those here soon too, and checking that out and see what they're talking about here, and interviewing Dr. Jeff Meldrum too on that as well. So those look like they'll be interesting too to check that out. Alright, so since I'm bringing all this in about science and the scientists, so I'm going to bring you something else here. Alright, so I brought my laptop, and I just have this saved. I don't have internet here. So I have this saved into my screenshot, so I want to read something here about another scientist. Alright, so I'll add this into the video too. I'll add these screenshots into the video so you can see it. Alright, so I'm going to enlarge this. Okay, so what I want to talk about here, this scientist, Carl Linnaeus. He was born in 1707 and died in January 1778. Alright, so this Carl Linnaeus, so he was he was accepted into noblement in 1761 as Carl von Linné. He was a Swedish biologist and physician who formalized binomial, let me see if I say that right, binomial nomenclature, the modern system of naming organisms. So he is known as the father of modern taxonomy. So that's where they give the names. They give the Latin names to everything, every animal, plant, everything on this planet. So he came up with that. He's the father of that. So many of his writings were in Latin. His name is rendered in Latin as Carolus Linnaeus, and after his 1761 ennoblement as Carolus Linnae. Alright, so he let's see, I'm going to put this in here so you can read these. So what I'm wanting to get to here is so in the 1950s and 1960s he was collecting and classifying animals, plants, minerals, while publishing several volumes of alright, so he was in Sweden. He studied at Uppsala University. Alright, so what I want to get to here is alright, so he's the one that he's the one that came up with the Homo sapiens, which is us. He named Homo sapiens. Alright, So from European, African, Asian, American, and he also named Homo Ferus Wildmen. So here we are back to Wildmen again with the scientists. So he named Wildmen Homo Ferus, and he named monsters Homo Monstrosus. So like humans, all these are diurnal in contrast to the nocturnal troglodyte. So he named the troglodyte as well. The name Linnaeus gave to the orangutan. So he called the orangutan a troglodyte. And he considered it not as simian, but as a second species of Homo. So elsewhere he wrote, I cannot discover the difference between man and the orangutan. Alright, so he named Wildmen back in the 1700s and came up with the name Homo Ferus Wildmen. Alright.
We're ready to go. It's after 4.
Is it?
I still gotta make dinner. We can keep doing this though. I mean, here and there during the day. You ready to go?
Not really, but I guess I will.
Okay, well I gotta make dinner.
I know. I'll still need to come back again, but I need to bring the thermosol because I'm getting eaten up by mosquitoes.
Oh, sure.
So I'll plan on coming back again.